was for it. I am now. I've been proven wrong.
I'm wondering if you consider yourself to be a constitutional sheriff. You know who Sheriff Mack is?
I do know who Sheriff Mack is. I've never met him. I understand he was in Ohio in July. He's the sheriff from Arizona. I did respond to the Abigail Adams survey. So I know who he is.
That's a plus. The person running for sheriff in Monroe County doesn't know who he is.
Having been here for a few meetings, I would be really wrong not to know who he is. I've been asked almost every meeting. So I had to educate myself. But I knew of him before, but didn't know him by name. I knew what he was doing there. Like you know other people, but you know what you read about, you don't follow their names. But now I have the name with me.
Well, he believes that the sheriff is the person with power.
The sheriff is the highest law enforcement authority in every county. That's in state law. I was talking to Sheriff Passenger because we were talking about Sheriff Mack and how that works. In truth, here in Ohio, the federal agents, at least in our county, this is speaking the sheriff, do check in with us. And one brief example would have been a few weeks ago. The Border Patrol was in town. They were doing good work. They were checking out. We have airports in Medina County. And the airports don't have 24-hour security. They lend themselves to being a perfect airport. I guess when you fly over an airport, you can click your mics. If the light comes on, you go down there, you use your credit card, you get your fuel, and you can leave. You can also empty what you're carrying, be it drugs or other contraband. So they were here doing a survey, but they stopped first and let us know and asked, you know, how we wanted to participate with that. That's a small example.
Right. Well, we do know that the sheriff is the highest office in the state. So what if it would ever come to,
Immigration.
No,
What's your
whatever comes down to something that comes out of Washington, or
Sheriff Mack.
Like for them to come confiscate our guns?
Oath keepers.
Between the overreaches of an overzealous federal government and
I've seen a couple other sheriffs actually took a very strong stance and won that in court. I don't know exactly what he did in terms of buffering his body when that and doing that. There are times when you have to make stands that are difficult to make. I've had to face one here, to be honest with you, to know.
you have to at least consider taking a stand, not
I have to.
follow something that came out of the decision.
Every day, and Kent's not going to be any different on this, we do take stances on individual issues that are difficult to make a stance on. I had to do one early on in my career when I saw police brutality. I ended up on the front page of the plaintiff who had been receiving death threats from other law enforcement officers. Things like that happen. You have to decide when and where you're going to make a stance. To tell you which individual time I would take a stance, this is where I'm talking about the Loch Ness Monster and everything. You have to have some faith. We don't know what the circumstances will be that will create a certain situation. There was a question about carry concealed here in Ohio earlier. The question was whether or not your name's protected. Yes, there's a record kept at the sheriff's office. The state hasn't, but there's an exception to the public records law that protects that information. And I can tell you, like, for example, a workplace in Medina County requested us to have that information. So I recently actually had to research that law. I thought it was exempt. Found out for sure, there's absolutely no way they can get the information. Then I was asked, well, what happens if Obama comes in and tries to find a way to do that? I don't think he can do that, and the state would fight hard to protect our rights on that. But I mean, the list exists, but it can't be shared.
Are you familiar with oath keepers?
No.
That's what Sheriff Mack, when he said no law enforcement will do any unconstitutional law like disarming the American population.
I didn't hear everything.
We can't hear you, Scott.
Sheriff Mack was talking about oath keepers, and basically what it says is they take it, they have the stuff, yeah. You heard of that. Do you agree with them?
Do we take an oath to protect the Constitution?
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
I have to move close.
What's the manpower? I got 2 questions, but I'll let you answer. What's the manpower from the Diamond County Sheriff's Department? And also, do you guys have a SWAT team, a special, like a special case?
Yes. When you ask for what the manpower is, the department is approximately 136 employees. And the question is, how are they deployed? The majority of them are in the court. How many people do we have on the road? Is that or what we would be?
Well, kind of mostly out there deputies, some people, doing that.
The road deputies and the sergeants total about 20-some officers. There is a SWAT team, an incident team, and it consists of, this is an example of collaboration that's cost effective. There are other law enforcement agencies within the county that are on that SWAT team. They've been called out 3 or 4 times since October when I came back to the Sheriff's Department. They train monthly. They go through a lot of ammunition. They go through a lot of tactics. They go through a lot of that. Now, what's interesting is what has changed in law enforcement in terms of deployment like that is active shooter training. An incident that occurs in a school or at workplace violence lasts from 4 to 7 minutes. It actually takes a SWAT team about 45 to 50 minutes to deploy. So what needs to occur is an immediate response. What was learned after Columbine, what was learned after Virginia Tech, is officers have to move in and move in quickly. I've been asked earlier, a couple of meetings ago, about automatic weapons or assault rifles. Yes, the officers now normally carry assault rifles because that's the preferred weapon to go into a building, one by yourself to protect those children, or with 2 officers. So that tactic's changed, and that's something else that's trained. It's trained for the other departments in the county too.
Thanks.
My question is regarding the whole drug issue that's been getting worse year by year. There's been a special on National Geographic. It's called Drugs, Inc., and they take each certain drug and go and explain how it gets to this country. Do you feel we're even putting a dent in, or how would you handle the drug task force to try and get a handle on the illegal drugs?
No, I don't think we are putting a dent in it, okay, to be honest.
So?
But I think one of the worst things that are occurring here in Diamond County is the abuse of pharmaceutical drugs. Throughout the drug task force, they do have officers working towards that. What can happen with Oxycontin and the other opiates like that is extremely dangerous, and probably most of us here know somebody. I had a niece that died last year that was 50-some years old, who did have a bad back and injuries, but she died from an overdose of those drugs. I think other people here probably do know people like that too. We have to find a way to do that. An Oxycontin prescription, a bad one, is worth about $4,000 on the street. That's what they can get for one that pills sell for like $10 a urinary specificity.
Well, I happened to see this one special that they have about the designer drugs and this bath salts. Those are so bad that they had a 17-year-old boy that needed a kidney transplant. Now, if we're going to be doing transplants on all these people, our healthcare issues are way out of the park.
Healthcare is more expensive because of the drugs and that.
Yeah,
But bath salts are an issue here in Medina County. There have been overdoses here. Thank goodness that the laws have changed to take those off the market and off the thing. But then they'll find another way to circumvent it. It's a chase that continues for those that would cause harm versus those that want to protect.
Well, I have a lot of back and neck problems. I've had them for years. My primary care doctor surgery, you know, and I've gone and done my thing. I'm not addicted to drugs. But because of the new laws and because of the problem with OxyContin, oxycodone, I feel like I'm being punished. Because my doctor says, you know, I really don't want to treat your pain anymore. This state law is kind of, so I'm forced to go to a pain management doctor who, being a nurse, wasn't real fond of. And it was an absolute nightmare. Absolute nightmare.
That's because of the abuse that's going on. My son's a quadriplegic. He's been a quadriplegic for 20 years. He had an accident, and one of the drugs he takes is OxyContin. And the difficulty in getting his prescription filled, and you have, if you've been taking it for as long as he is, he's an addict too. I mean, he's an addict to his pain. But we've experienced the same difficulty in getting it. It is because there are people that abuse it.
You know, and it's a sad thing. It's like, I feel I'm being punished. And I'm not the one that's caused the problem. And, you know, why should I feel guilty? And I know that, obviously, you know if you've got a son that's on it. You know, I just don't think that we are even close to anything on drug use or the, you know.
I agree that we have to continue to fight.
Oh, yeah.
We have to.
Is there a thought out there that might help the problem? You know, it's just scary.
All we can do is continue. Medina County is way ahead. We have the Medina County Drug Abuse Commission. I'm sure Kent wants to speak here soon.
All right.
Okay.
Jim?
Sorry.
Great. Thank you, Don. All right, and next up we have Kent Patterson running for sheriff.
Good morning. As Jim said, I'm Kent Patterson, and I'm running for Medina County Sheriff. I don't know a lot of you. There is a comfort level being here because I know that we share the same values. I am a lifelong Republican, and I know some of you probably aren't, but I share your conservative values, always have, and Steve had mentioned something about, my two sons went to college and my youngest went to OU, and I was concerned that when he went down there, that he would be affected by the liberal professors and that type of thing. But somehow I think, and I think Steve would agree with me, that our young people are smart enough to get past that. And both my sons are very conservative now in their politics and their outlook on life issues, as I am, as my wife is. Very briefly, I would like to tell you that I've lived in Medina County since 1989. I'm from Worcester, Ohio. I'm a graduate of the University of Akron. I'm a graduate of the Ohio State Highway Patrol Academy, the Southern Police Institute, and many other management courses. I retired from the State Highway Patrol as a commander of the Medina Post in 1997. I've worked for 13 years as a full-time police chief in Westfield Center. I also work at the Career Center over their basic police and law enforcement programs. I'm carry the title school commander out there. So I have been very involved in both education and policing in Medina County for over 20 years. The things that I would like to bring out are my experience. I've also been on MCDAC, which is Medina County Drug Abuse Commission, for 10 to, I think, almost 12 years. I serve on the county school board. I've been elected twice to that, and I was appointed the first time, elected twice. These things give me a good handle on both things that our young people are involved in, things that our drug units face, things that where I can make a difference. I'm very financially and fiscally conservative. I would tell you that on the school board, we had some grand plans a couple of years ago to move our facility out into Medina Township. The economy went bad, and we saw that that was not a good move at the time. It would have been $1 million, in excess of $1 million move, and we nixed that. I would also tell you that If you read the Gazette, Medina County Gazette this past week or so, and you've read about the salaries of some of the folks out there, concerns me quite a bit. And a lot of those are salaries of police chiefs, police lieutenants, police sergeants, and it's a lot of money. It's over $100,000 for a lot of them. It's sergeants and lieutenants are making $90,000 and $80,000. That's probably more money than a lot of people in this room make. It's a lot more money than I make. And I work 2 jobs to do that. I would tell you that I am extremely fiscally conservative in those issues. We did not give our superintendent of schools or our secretary, school, meaning treasurer, I'm sorry, a raise this past year. Because we're a very consensus-oriented board and we're a very fiscally conservative board, and I agree with that. My law enforcement experience, I would tell you, is been long. It's been very successful. I know there's some constitutional issues that were raised in this meeting. I have never been sued as a trooper, as a sergeant in the patrol, as a lieutenant in highway patrol, or as a police chief for ever abridging anybody's constitutional rights, for holding people that we should not have, or for any of those issues. My past in those respects should reflect what you can expect out of me as a county sheriff. Both fiscally and in respecting people's rights. The one thing, somebody asked me, are you going to keep all your jobs? No, I obviously would retire from the village of Westfield Center and would leave the school job. But I have those connections. I would ask you as a resume for me, if there's people you know in Medina County, call them. I'm on a first name basis with police chiefs, prosecutors, with everybody. When I was at the post, we had a very active drug enforcement program. We made some of the biggest drug seizures in the state of Ohio, and that was back through the 90s. I was very proud of that, and I was proud of the effectiveness and the hard work of the troops. The troops out there during my tenure apprehended 2 people that had just killed somebody. In fact, one of them, they killed a trooper from Brunswick. It was the Medina County troops that made those arrests. We had some very significant things occur. And I give the troops credit for that, but it still took some leadership. I look at the county sheriff's department that if I'm elected with your support, that I will go in there and look at each and everything that we do, each and every department, make them more effective, where they serve people better, but we do it more cost effective. I may look at the command staff and look at some changes there. I'm going to do these things without costing jobs, but it is important to me that I do them to improve the effectiveness. And one reason I can do this, I would tell you, is because Sheriff Hassinger has served this county well. He's in his last year, as we know. That's why Tom and I are up here. That gives myself, and I would say it gives Tom, an opportunity to go in there and make new and good changes, because nothing really needs fixed. I have some new insight, some new vision, but which it will provide me the opportunity to do. But because of his good work, we've got a sheriff's department that's run well for 15.5 years so far. I've probably gone over my time limit too. Are there any questions or anything I could respond to? Yes, sir.
Some of the same questions I asked Tom. What's your stand on concealed carry? What's your stand on Sheriff Mack and what he stands for? No keepers and no people. Could you address some of the same questions that were asked to Tom?
Yeah, sure. I've always been supportive of the concealed carry. I figure I've carried a gun for 40 years, and so can you. Although I supported it, I did have some of the concerns that Tom did, because going through the highway patrol, I can name 2 incidents where the children of troopers got a hold of their guns, and in one case, the young fellow committed suicide. The other was an accidental discharge. But I think people that are responsible enough to have that concealed carry license are also responsible enough to properly handle that gun in your homes with your children and in those areas that you have that weapon. And the other concerns are what you had talked about, being a very conservative individual. I obviously agree with the sheriff and those issues. And I'm not talking about the future, but I would like you to really look at my past and see how I've been, because that should be a good predictor of what kind of sheriff that I'm going to be.
As sheriff, if Washington were to decree your office to do something that you felt was unconstitutional, would you comply or would you stand in front of the people?
I would stand for the people. I would not violate the Constitution of the United States. And that's one reason I brought it out, that I have not. And as a police chief in Westfield Center, I really respect the privacy of people, and I always have in the highway patrol. It's, I guess I've been around long enough that you know these are issues that are critical to impress. And you know, I talk about myself in that manner, but it's what I expected out of the state troopers that work for me, and it's what I expect out of the officers that work for me in Westfield Center. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, basically, your ideas on drug task force, and is there anything you could see that could help us put a handle on this, or?
Well, I've been, like I said, I've been on MCDAC, the Medina County Drug Abuse Commission, for, I don't know, since the late 90s. And I represent the police chiefs on that commission, and we fund the Medina County Drug Task Force. We worked very well with them when I was at the Highway Patrol Post. I work well with them now. I work in a very small community in Westfield Center, and I need their assistance to work on some of our cases, and they're always willing to provide it. And I do what I can, representing the police chief, to ensure that the Drug Task Force gets funding from MCDAC that they need to operate properly and effectively. I would tell you that the Drug Task Force in Medina County has some excellent agents, and they have an excellent op director in charge, who is Gary Hubbard. He's retired from the Sheriff's Department, and he's very concerned about everybody in this room and your relationship to the issues you have involving drugs. The question I think that was asked of Tom is a tough one. Are we winning the battle? No, we are not. That's not to say that we can't fight it, though. We're a relatively small county, I don't know, 170-some thousand people. We will do what we can. I do what I can in the Village Westfield Center. The Drug Task Force is doing terrific. But I knew that as my troopers were making significant drug stops out on Interstate 71, that during that half hour to an hour getting things processed, that there were probably other ones driving right by. But we cannot not fight it. We've got to do that. Yes, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have a...
Yeah, I do, Ken. I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Both you and Tom, actually. I don't know if it's the right place to bring this up or not, but I've been trying to get a question answered from Sandy Pfeiffer. We have a church and a school that's connected. We took the no concealed carry signs down at our church. Do we have to leave them up on our school? Can I carry my gun in my church? There seems to be an awful lot of church violence throughout the country. People walking in, just shooting up people every once in a while. You don't hear it a lot, but it happens. I talked to my pastor, he's very pro-gun, and he's okay with it. But Sandy couldn't answer the question, and she directed me to Dwight. I called his office. I had to get an attorney to get the question answered. It's ridiculous.
Now, Tom and I put up with attorneys for our careers, but
Did you answer your question? The attorney?
Get the question answered.
to my understanding, and I would look at the law, that I don't know that there's any prohibitions, and I could be wrong, but I don't know that there are any prohibitions against carrying a gun in a school or a church, except that I would imagine the school board has that right on their own to prohibit that. Certain bars, and you see, you know, where alcohol is served, there are prohibitions. But churches, businesses, schools, I think that's an issue that the school board or the pastor or somebody at the church would make a determination on.
Yeah, I'm an elder in our church.
I'm sorry, Terry?
I'm an elder in our church, and we voted that it's okay to carry in our church.
Okay.
Well, we don't know about the school. And they, again, are attached, the buildings are attached. And to say you think, that's what I keep getting, you think. Nobody can give me a definitive answer on it, and it's not in the book.
I don't know that, do you know, Tom, that, I don't think there's a prohibition against carrying a gun in the school, short of the school system prohibiting it.
No, I don't know either. I do know that you can carry them in church, and that actually some of our training camp has indicated we should carry them. Schools and churches can be terrorist targets.
That's right.
And that's one of the reasons to be armed, one of the reasons we were told, you know, don't feel comfortable carrying it in church. Now, if you're attached school, that's what's creating the problem. It's attached to the church, and that's why we're doing more research to find out. I'm guessing that's, you know, if it was a standalone, they could say yes or no. I could think of all sorts of reasons why good people should be able to carry weapons. I can just think of all sorts of reasons why I don't want an irate father who's involved in a custody battle being able to be armed and come and remove his child from the school. You have to face that. So I hate to say that we need a legal opinion on that, but we do. And usually, in Ohio, it's the Attorney General's opinion is what you do in absence of law. What we do is go base it on the Attorney General's opinion. And they are contacted for that. He hasn't given money, it hasn't. So.
Jason wants to weigh in on.
Yeah. Sorry to crash the party. I'm a CCW holder and recent, I don't know if this, I'm sorry. I took my class maybe a year plus ago. I got my license 8-9 months ago, something like that. And I was taught certainly that there is an absolutely strict prohibition of any kind of concealed weapon on any school grounds, period, and within a few hundred feet even of the parking lots. You can't even pick your kids up from school with it locked in your glove box, for example. It's a strict prohibition.
As long as you stay in the car with the gun.
Yeah,
You can drop your kid off the driveway.
the prohibition of the weapon on school property is very strict, and I would agree with Tom, probably the issue is that you voted on it, and it's a private school. You can't go to government buildings, it's full of government buildings, and I think that's probably the question, really, is whether that you can vote on it if it's a private school attached to a church. So I know you mentioned that you didn't know if there was any prohibition of schools, but there's, as far as I understand, a very strict prohibition of guns on school property.
Everyone here is packing, right?
Okay.
Any other questions?
This you can find out for me.
Yeah.
Maybe you can give it to me.
Well, thanks again, and again, I appreciate the comfort level of talking to you folks because, you know, we may disagree on some things, but overall, we're a group that has the same values, and I enjoy talking and being with a group of this nature. Thanks.
All right, let's see. Do we have any other candidates running for any